Shalom, shalom, giving honor and praise to the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. This is Deuteronomy 28, verse 68, part 3, simplified. We're going to go back to Deuteronomy 28, verse 68, so we can gain an understanding yet even further concerning this matter. All right? And it says, "And the Lord shall bring thee back into Egypt in ships, by the way whereof I said unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again." Meaning that when the Israelites left from their distress, they were never supposed to be distressed again. Because we got to keep on remembering that Mount Zer and Mount Zerayim means double distress. "And there you shall sell yourselves unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you." Meaning that you will sell yourselves or devote yourselves to your enemies, and nobody is accepting you. Nobody's going to redeem you. Nobody's going to make an atonement for you. Nobody's going to care about you. That's what that is talking about in that particular aspect. So let that be noted and understood. Now, if we go, brothers and sisters, into Deuteronomy 28, verse 48, it says, "Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemy, whom the Most High will send against thee in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he hath destroyed thee. The Lord will bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. A nation of fierce countenance, that shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor unto the young." So now you got those brothers and sisters who do not like Israelites, or who do not respect the position that Hebrew Israelites take concerning Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. And they themselves have a dual understanding of this. Some say that Deuteronomy 28, verse 48 to verse 68 is solely talking about the Israelites and the Romans. And then they'll sit there and read them same verses like 49 and 50 that I just read and try to say, well, see, that's talking about Babylon. So it's not talking about the Europeans coming against the people scattered in Western Africa. So those right there are people who obviously don't understand the scriptures themselves. So let's take it from the aspect that a lot of Caucasians that get a lot of likes and clicks on Facebook and likes and clicks on YouTube concerning this kind of thing. And let's see what this is exactly talking about. Deuteronomy 28, verse 45 says as follows: "And all these curses shall come upon thee, Israel, and shall pursue thee, Israel, and overtake thee, Israel, till thou be destroyed." Now, destroyed in Hebrew comes from the Hebrew word hashmad, which means to be devastated. So let that be noted. That's why it's important to get into the linguistics of the people. Okay, let's move on. Verse 45. "Because you did not hearken unto the voice of the Most High thy King, to keep all his commandments and the statutes which he commanded thee." Now let's stop here. Keep your hand there if you care to. Let's go to Daniel chapter 9, verse 11, so we can see a subject matter concerning this type of aspect. And it says this: "Yea, all Israel has transgressed your law, and have turned aside, so as not to hearken to thy voice. And so there have been poured out upon us the curse and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of Elohim, for we have transgressed against him." So Deuteronomy 28 started to happen to the people while the people were still in the land. And it says, as verse 45 points out, what? "And all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee." So if it says it shall pursue and overtake thee, these curses just can't be limited to just one particular empire or just one particular kingdom. Because it says concerning Israel that it shall pursue and overtake thee. That means wherever Israel go, once you broke the laws of the Most High to that great magnitude, those curses will begin to follow you. So now, in light of that understanding, let's move along. Blessed be the Most High, to Deuteronomy 28, verse 64. "And the Most High shall scatter thee among all peoples, from the one end of the earth even to the other end of the earth. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which thou hast not known, thou nor thy fathers, even wood and stone." So we already confirmed in other presentations, as in part 1, that the Assyrians under the era of Tiglath-Pileser, then his successor, which was Shalmaneser, then Sargon, then Sennacherib, and then Esarhaddon. All of those Assyrian kings came up against the nation of Israel. We spoke in part 2 about the reference about Nebuchadnezzar coming against the tribe of Judah. So now what happened in the year 612 or in 609 BCE is that Babylon took over the Assyrian Empire. So now, in light of that, we go to Jeremiah, who lived during the era when Babylon took the tribe of Judah. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 33. So we can let the scripture speak before we get into some historical aspects. Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 33, and it reads as follows. It says the following. Thus saith the Most High of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah are oppressed together, and all that took them captive hold them fast. They refuse to let them go. In light of that, now let's go to the same chapter, Jeremiah 50, now verse 17. Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First the king of Assyria hath devoured him. And last, this Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had broken his bones. So even if you look at the artwork of the Assyrians and the artwork of the Babylonians, you will see why Jeremiah mentions it as being a lion. You understand? Because they dealt with lions inside of their artwork. When you look at the palace walls that was in the Babylonians or within the Assyrians. So let that be noted and understood. It said that the lions have roared upon him. First, the king of Assyria. We went over the situation with Tiglath-Pileser with the northern kingdom of Israel. And then last, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had broken his bones. Meaning that the last bones, the structure that Israel has, a kingdom, Nebuchadnezzar smashed that. That is what that is talking about. So now the last king that ruled over Israel / the southern kingdom of Judah, that is to say Zedekiah, that we read of in part 2 concerning this presentation. So this is very important to let that be noted. Daniel was a captive under the successors of Nebuchadnezzar. So now when we go in Daniel chapter 9, and it says what? All we Israel have sinned, and the curse of the oath that is in the laws of Moses have poured upon us Israel. And as we read in Deuteronomy 28, that's what Daniel was talking about. So all these curses shall pursue and overtake thee. So somebody then to try to sit there and try to say that from a particular verse to another particular verse is talking about solely the Israelites and the Babylonians or the Israelites and the Romans, that one thing is a mistake. So let that be noted and understood. Another thing, brothers and sisters, we concluded in part 2 concerning the Israelites in Elephantine Island. And I would like to show, brothers and sisters, in this right here. This is from the Macmillan Bible Atlas. This is how the people traveled when they went actually into the land of Egypt. See, from the Assyrians. The Assyrian king, even Ashur-bani-pal, he went into Egypt by that. So let that be noted and understood. The Israelites did the same. Jacob did the same with his family. And if you study history, not to get sidetracked, you had it to where Thutmose III actually went the opposite way into the land of what you call the Euphrates when he was trying to make sure that the people later on in history called the Hyksos don't come back into the land of Egypt. So we have to begin to know how to put history, etymology, linguistics, prophecy, in a particular people's culture in context. Okay, so let that be noted and understood. Brothers and sisters, I like to read from a select secular source. This is coming from the book of Tacitus, the Histories, book 5, and this is on page 238. And let's see something that is very interesting. All right, it says the following. Pompey was the first Roman to subdue the Jews and set foot in the temple by right of conquest. That is the source of the information that the temple contained no image of any god. Their shrine was empty, their innermost sanctuary void. The walls of Jerusalem were destroyed, but the temple was left standing. Now, those who know history know that in the year 63 BCE, as we went over in part 1, brothers and sisters, that Pompey made Jerusalem a Roman province. So we have to begin know and understand what happened in between the era with the Assyrians falling and the house of Israel. And where did the children of Israel scatter to? This is one popular presentation that Israelites present concerning this kind of aspect. The Assyrian people, the Euphrates, Judah, and Jerusalem, and where they scattered, North and Western Africa. So let that be noted and understood. When you go in your own time, brothers and sisters, you will begin to see in the book of Zephaniah chapter 3 verse 10 to 14, it speaks about Israelites who were scattered beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. The rivers of Ethiopia today is called the White and the Blue Nile. So if Israel, according to the Israelite prophets, were scattered beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, you got to get into Western Africa. Now, in light of that, in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 64, it said that Israel will be scattered from one end of the earth even to the other. And there you shall serve other gods, which your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, did not know. That is how you know good and well, brothers and sisters, the Jewish man, the European converted Khazarian Jew, who never went through a slave trade, mind you, when he tries to say, oh, we kept the laws of Hashem for 5,000 years. You're lying. If you want to still claim that, it didn't say that you the people of the Most High, because Jeremiah said Israel broke the law. Daniel says Israel broke the law. Malachi said the Levites broke the law. Ezekiel 48 speaks about Israel breaking the law. So, pardon me, Ezekiel chapter 20 speaks about that. So to try to sit there and try to force the Jewish man, the European converted Jews, into this is why they don't deal with the Torah. They got to deal with the Zohar. They got to deal with the Kabbalah. They got to sit there and deal with the Mishnah and the Gemara together, making the Talmud, because they cannot deal with the Torah, the Nibaim and the Ketubim. Incorrectly today called the Old Testament. Okay? So, let that be noted. Now, one of the things to point out also, it says that Pompey was the person that was of the Roman people that went first into the temple in Jerusalem. Also, Tacitus says in following, the emperor. Now, he's speaking in this case about the guy we know in history as Claudius. Claudius was the successor of Caligula. Okay? The emperor therefore made Judea a province to be governed by Roman knights or freedmen. Now, he goes on, after the situation with Claudius, you get Nero. This becomes important. Let's move on. Nero sent out Vespasian, who, within 2 summers, thanks to his reputation, good fortune, and able subordinates, had the whole of the flat country and all the towns except Jerusalem under the heel of his victorious army. He goes on to say, at the same time, it seemed advantageous to leave Titus at the head of the army to meet all the good eventualities of the new reign, whether good or bad. So one of the things to point out is that the historian Tacitus in book 5 of the histories of Tacitus, he speaks particularly about the situation with the Romans and the Israelites, or the Romans and the Hebrews. You understand? And he speaks about how Titus was left there by his father. So one of the things to point out is that after Titus, he made, as we shown in part 1, the Archer Titus, that is to say Domitian, his brother, had that set up in the year 81 AD. You understand? So then after Domitian, you had Nerva, and then you had Trajan, and then you had the guy in history that is called Hadrian. Hadrian, when you get into history, in the year 135, had it to where none of the Israelites was allowed to go back into their land. So who then, if that being the case, were the people in the Sanhedrin, and who then in that case were the people of the Great Assembly, being that the 2 Israelites was outside of their land? That was Esau, the Edomites, who the Romans called the Idumeans, that was inside the land of Israel, perpetrating a fraud as if they were the true Jews. So all of that history has to be noted and let it be known and understood. So then, now getting from that particular aspect and moving along, let's see, brothers and sisters, now when we get to part 4 and concluding it on that, what is Deuteronomy 28 verse 68 talking about from references? Shalom.